Welcome to Ghostlight. This is a podcast about the business of making art and the artists making it work. And I'm so happy to have these guests, the Honey Dewdrops, Kagey and Laura. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having us. We're psyched.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
This is awesome to have a conversation with you prior to your concert, which is coming up on February the 24th, a Tuesday, in Stanton, Virginia at the Green Room. We are really looking forward to hosting you.
It's going to be a great time. It too.
Yeah. It's a super small room, but the advantage of that is it feels super intimate. It's like a house concert with a built-in bar, so it's always a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to getting to meet you both in person and welcome you to that space. So to get us started, will you guys just tell us a little bit about the Honey Dewdrops? I know you've got a long history, 15 years making music together. Is that correct?
It goes back even further than 15 years, actually.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, our origin story is essentially we met in college. Kagey went to Hampton-Sydney College, and I went to Longwood University in Farmville, Virginia. And we met through mutual friends, and music was a shared interest. And we slowly put a repertoire of songs together and had like a monthly coffee shop gig that we would play. And kind of in there, we were starting to write songs. I think one of my favorite stories to share and memories is that Kagey had some poetry laying around the house, and I just picked one of the poems up and wrote a song to it. And that's kind of history. Like we were teachers for a little while, and we left those jobs to go on tour full time. We had a little like breakthrough moment where we were on a Prairie Home Companion in 2008, and that was kind of a launch pad for us to start making music full time. Yeah, we're 18 years from that, right? No,
Wow.
yeah, 18 years.
Yeah. Oh man, that's crazy. The time goes by.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about your process and how you two work together to compose. I love that story about finding the poetry and then using that as the source material. Is that a frequent occurrence? Do you write together or apart?
I think it happens a little bit of every kind of way. Sometimes it's together and sometimes it's apart. Sometimes it's just like an instrumental tune that has no words. Yeah, we've written songs with other people too. Yeah, it's just like every new day calls for a little bit of a different thing. So it always looks a little bit different. Lately, I feel like we've been writing kind of on our own, and we might be coming together soon to try some of that new stuff out that the other person hasn't heard. But yeah, it's always just like a little different, which is it's kind of nice. Kind of nice to not feel locked into one kind of way. And to like take some time off when it's time to do that too.
Yeah. Tell me about, I know you both relocated to Stanton, Virginia, right? That's on the website. And you were in Baltimore before that. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Tell me about the decision to make the move to Stanton and what kind of drove that decision and how are you liking it so far?
Well, we're both originally from Virginia, and we had lived in Richmond after college and then Charlottesville, and both towns that we grew up in. And then we were looking for a change, met some friends while on tour from Baltimore, and really loved the communal aspects of the city and the art scene. And we were like, let's give that a try. And so we did for 11 years and loved it. But I think around the time of the pandemic, so much changed. We were off the road quite a bit because of that time. just our wants and needs changing, and I think we found ourselves craving being back home, being closer to home, being closer to our families. And, we have had ties to Stanton. Mine go back even to when I was a kid, and my parents have longtime family friends that live here, and we'd come over for music things and dinner things. And but one of the, I think, clinch moments was buying a Husson Dalton guitar in the early 2000s, and eventually meeting that community. So through our touring years, we would come here and play the Mockingbird, which was like such a beloved venue. And so anyway, there's a history with Stanton that brought us here. So wanting to be closer to our families and the community and the mountains, the landscape. Yeah. Anything else
for anybody listening who's not familiar with Stanton, Virginia, like there is almost nothing more quintessentially Stanton than the fact that there is a world-class guitar maker that just happens to be located in this community, and that many people don't even realize that it's there, right? And then you mentioned Mockingbird. It's sort of the same thing, right? That this little town would just happen to have an incredible venue for years, which is unfortunately closed down now. But those are so emblematic of the town of Stanton, Virginia. Yeah. The reason I went there in 2014 was because they have the world's only recreation of Shakespeare's indoor playhouse. Right. Yeah. I was a company member there. Yeah. So it's just so Stanton. Yeah. Well, I'm glad this is fun too, because it's kind of like this can become a welcome home concert for you. And hopefully Green Room can be somewhat of a Mockingbird. We can fill that void a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you already are. I mean, right before we moved, we have a really good friend who lives, very close to West Beverly, and was like, "Hey, I'm going to a trivia night on Wednesday at the Green Room. You guys should come." And we were like, "What's the Green Room?" And I mean, just walking into the space, we're like, "Oh, thank goodness Stanton has this." Like we just honestly didn't even know, because we hadn't really been and hung out in Stanton for a while. So thank you for having this venue that's bringing in music, community, fun things to do, and delicious drinks.
Yeah. Yeah.
always things are always better with a delicious beverage.
Yeah.
Non-alcoholic or imbibing, either one works, Well, can you guys tell me a little bit more about how your Virginia roots impact your sound and how the Honey Dewdrops came to be?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think of Virginia music as like a roots music, and there's so much, but when I think about Virginia, I think about like string band or blues, or these sort of acoustic based musics. A lot of them have storytelling as part of their DNA. Yeah, I mean, like some of my favorite bluegrass or old time kind of artists are from this area, from either the valley or the mountainous regions. But I mean, there's a ton of great music, or just all over the state. So when we were younger, just really influenced by a lot of that stuff, a lot of the Virginia kind of music. I remember being a kid and listening to, I grew up in Richmond, and the PBS station, the public radio station, had, like, Saturday night would be Prairie Home Companion, and it would lead into this guy Page. I'm blanking on his last name now. Anyway, he had a long-standing, great, like, folk and roots music show that would go on for a couple hours on Saturday nights. And so I could often remember watching or listening to that show. And he did such a great job of just showcasing like a lot of local songs and a lot of like local Virginia talent, among, stuff from all over the world too. But it always hit me as like, oh, right, that's a really Virginia thing to have this kind of like roots music. So we were both like really influenced by that stuff, and especially like this guy Mike Seeger, who was Pete Seeger's younger half brother, who made his home out in Lexington, Virginia, and he was just like a fantastic sort of studier of American folk music styles, both like black traditions and white traditions. And he played like all the instruments, and like he was a real sort of turn on to the music, and then like a sort of a guiding force, and like, wow, you can do like all this different stuff and like learn it all and like make it all and record music in your house if you wanted to, because he had a studio there in his house. So just like being younger and learning about all this stuff was like, wow, Virginia has such like a rich history with it. So one of the things that we always try to do is like come from sort of some of those backgrounds, at least with string band music, but also with the premise of wanting to write new songs, and add new stuff to the catalog. Um, Kind of a long-winded answer, but yeah, there's so much there. It's like you can never get all of the good stuff that's happened in Virginia musically, in there, but there's a ton.
Absolutely. I'm not originally from Virginia. I grew up in just north of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And so the first time that we moved here, I hadn't really been that into bluegrass and folk. Just hadn't been a part of my upbringing, and I didn't have that connection to it. But I started listening to it when I moved here. And then we moved away, and it was almost like a longing inside of me to get back to that mountain music, and back not only just to the music, but to the area where that music felt most at home. And
Yeah.
I immediately got connected to it. And now I would say it's probably that and jazz are my two favorite genres, but folk, grass, Appalachian,
Yeah.
just those stringed instruments. And yeah, there's something about it that it's like you feel instantly connected to the history of the area
Yeah.
when you're experiencing it.
Yeah, it's really powerful like that, and it's so hard to describe. It's like, what is that? But there is a certain kind of power that, yeah, I feel the same way. It's still really vibrant for me, And I've noticed, like being back here the last couple months, we've been reconnecting with some friends that we haven't had all that much time to be with over the last number of years. And so many of them play that style of music and want to get together and jam and make that music. And I've just noticed it being like, it never really went away from me, but I feel it like kind of amped up on another level. It's really cool.
Tell us a little bit more about, you mentioned the storytelling of your music. Can you tell a little bit more about that and how that theme manifests itself in your newest album?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like we've had an evolution with storytelling, from our early days of writing songs. I think maybe working to capture a sort of aesthetic with the storytelling. It was, certainly characters and maybe like a little less personal in the beginning. And I feel like it's morphed to being perhaps a little more topical and personal. And without going through like every album one by one, you brought up the latest one, which is actually something we'd never done before, which was a collaboration with a friend of ours who lives over in Afton. And just it's actually a very long story, but ultimately he was looking for a way to kind of express gratitude for his origin story being an adopted child. And he reached out to us with this idea that he's a big fan of music. He's a musician himself and has been a longtime fan and friend of ours. And he was like, I just feel like we need to put this into music. And there were some parameters around it too with the storytelling part. But yeah, ultimately, the short way of talking about it is that our last album is, some of his story built into these songs that, if you hear them, you might not necessarily think, oh, this is about someone whose life as an adopted child goes this way, but there's bits and pieces of that in each song. And I'd love for Kagey to share more about it because he was really at the helm of it.
Yeah, it was interesting to try to, take the material. We sat down with our friend Jason. He just like told us everything that he had sort of known. And he didn't know a lot about his biological family until like the last 5 years. So it was a lot of new information for him that was very exciting for him. He had grown up with a, really loving adoptive family, and all that was good. And it was just like this added goodness, some hardness in there too, but with knowing about his biological family. And then, just kind of getting a feel from him about, well, how do you tell this story with songs? And does it need to be right on the nose? Does it need to be, sort of next to the really specific stuff? How can you like tell the story the best way without being like super specific? Because, sometimes a song that's super specific is limited in a way. It kind of can only live in little pieces of the world. What Jason suggested was, man, it would be cool to like use his story, but in a more sort of universal kind of way, a song that could bring anybody into. So that was a task for sure. It's like, how do you get the fine details, but also how do you get, something that's a little bit more general, to kind of bring anybody in, and to make it maybe more than just, this one little story. And kind of wrestled with that for a little while, but man, I think so many songs just do that anyway. Like I think songs can be, you can be very specific, but you can also kind of walk in between super general and super specific and like try to invite a lot of people in. I think that's probably how I was thinking about it. And we stumbled upon the idea of, well, what does really good with that stuff is like country music, like sort of honky tonk music. The adoption story is, there's a lot of songs about that already. And they typically are like sadder, and sure, it makes sense. It's like, that's a tough life experience. But one thing that we came to was, well, could we try to tell the story and have it not be so sad? Because part of what Jace kept bringing up was, just feels like a lucky dude. Like his life has been pretty good. He's got a family. He's been married for a long time, has kids and grandkids, and he didn't necessarily have to know anything about his biological family. Could have, had a good life either way. But trying to like learn more, just kind of, and there are hard things that come up with that part of the story, but even so, like his just general demeanor about it was like, man, I just feel very lucky and grateful to have had this life, and grateful to all the people, including, his birth mom and including his adopted parents who loved him a lot, and just the whole thing. Like, how do you tell somebody's stories coming from that angle? It's more complicated than just like good or bad or sad or happy or whatever. And so we thought, country music really does that so well. You can walk all those sort of different lines, sometimes within the same song. So that's kind of, I would say that's sort of the overarching sound of the record. It's like a little bit more honky tonk, sort of country music infused with a few songs that Laura and I might have written just on our own. The Dewdrops catalog is typically sad and slow. I mean, we just love that kind of sound, and a lot of what we've written comes out in that way. But one of the things about this album that was fun to make was trying to not just be in that world, using that as like a little seasoning for a couple songs here and there, and then trying different stuff too. Yeah, it was cool to have that intention of how do we tell this story, um, and how do we not pigeonhole ourselves into one little spot of being able to play with tone and some specific story and some just like kind of funny stuff too. So yeah.
Well, and you all are currently touring. So how does this live show differentiate itself from your past tours? What are you excited about as you hit the road this time?
Well, actually, things have kind of changed for us in the last 2 years where we had been touring a lot and we've been full-time musicians since 2009. And just the landscape of the music industry has really changed. And so we're trying to navigate our way through that. And one of the things we are looking to do more of is play locally to where we are. And so when we were living in Baltimore, we were finding more opportunities to stick around the region and play local things. And that's something that we're trying to do here in the Valley too. So, one of the reasons that we wanted to play at the Green Room is that, it's a chance to be in our new community and have it be this like intimate evening, where playing the slow, sad songs might fit for a night in a cozy space instead of on like a festival stage.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
Are
I
there
think we're gonna be playing like all original songs that night too, which is gonna be a really cool, I think, way to it's kind of interesting to like look way back into the catalog and maybe pull out some stuff that we haven't done in a while.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's funny, like as time has gone on, it's like, wow, the catalog has grown. There's a lot of stuff that like we haven't played in quite a while. So I'm really looking forward to that aspect of like, yeah, it's going to be a pretty intimate evening with songs that we've written, pulling out some of that older stuff too, which will be fun. And yeah, it just feels like a nice kind of way to have a first show back here in Virginia.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we're really looking forward to it. Um, Tell me more about what, so you said you've been professional musician since 2009, full time, which I think as an artist in the performing arts industry, I would say that's quite an accomplishment, to be doing your passion full time and having it be the thing that is your vocation, as well as your passion. How do we translate that into kind of practical real life realities? What does a typical week look like for you now?
Yeah, for me, it's been more teaching. Because we have taken a step back from touring so much. Um, One of the ways I'm filling in the days and trying to bring in some money too is to be teaching. I've been doing that for, I guess, almost 2 years. We're coming up on 2 years of it, and it's been a really cool addition to my experience with music. For a long time, it never really crossed my mind as something that I would want to do. I just wanted to like write that next song and like, keep working on the show and, be out there on the road, which we were for a long time. Coming back to like my main purpose in life has always just sort of been to be close to music, be inside the music. And there's so many ways to do that. And I just have found that teaching has been a really cool one for me recently. Mostly working with folks on like their guitar playing, but I've also been teaching some mandolin. And I've been working with some folks on songwriting and some recording as well. So that part has been really cool for me. I like being, again, like close to the music and in that kind of way. And it's a cool feeling to get to try to help folks out with their own music too.
Yeah. And you're really good at it.
Oh, thanks.
Um, yeah, it's been an interesting time shifting from, touring being largely, well, being our sole income and I think we're trying to figure out new and creative ways to keep music in our lives as our passion and something that we've shared together for 2 decades. And um, I think for me, one of my discoveries has been having something a little outside of music keeps some balance in my life. And so about 2 years ago, I started working part-time on a flower farm north of Baltimore and was kind of filling in some of the non-touring gaps with basically working on a farm and really enjoying that. And since we've moved to Stanton, I've been kind of looking for some similar work, but we did move in December and pretty much farm life is on pause at the moment.
Right, right.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to finding some community there on top of like continuing to write some music together and keep putting out albums and also giving lessons. I mean, I'm slow to come to that. I think it would be interesting to talk about imposter syndrome at some point. And one of the reasons why I've been a little bit slow to come to lessons is that feeling of like, who would want to take a lesson from me? I've just been a touring musician for 18 years. I mean, it's so silly, but it creeps in. So,
Have
yeah.
you guys ever read, there's a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard of
I've
it.
heard
yeah.
of it, but yeah, I haven't read it.
He talks in that book about something very similar where, it's like you keep adding proof. You say like, I'm not a writer, but then if you start writing every day, and then you
Yeah.
look up after 2 years of writing every single day and all of a sudden the proof mounts up that, hate to break it to you, but you're now a writer. After 20 years of touring as a musician, I hate to break it to you, Laura, but I think you've got something to add to the conversation there.
It's true.
Thanks for saying that. I mean, I intellectually know that to be true. It's like emotionally, I need to catch up to like, yes, I have something to offer people. I'm
Yeah.
getting there. I'm working on it.
I wonder if it ever goes away. I mean, I definitely struggle with that in both an entrepreneurship sense. I left full-time acting to open businesses and now own them and run them along with my wife and our great team. But even, we're now 6 years into doing that, and I feel like I'm just kind of winging it. Like I don't think of myself as an entrepreneur or as a business person. And then the further I've gotten away from the professional acting world, the less I feel like I've got a justified voice in talking about that industry,
Yeah.
So I don't
think
know
it's-
that it ever goes away. Go
I
ahead.
guess it doesn't, but what's helpful is talking to other people who are successful in their industries and hearing that they are also going through it. Like the more we can have real open conversations about these things, like the less amplified they feel. Like just hearing you say that, and I'm also like, but you're running 3 successful businesses. Like, how could you feel like you're just winging it? And also like, I just did the same thing. So
Right.
yeah, I don't know where that comes from, but it's definitely good to talk about and keep working through instead of ignoring it and then not doing the things. I think there's a fear for me in stepping out to give lessons because of that like unworthiness, and I shouldn't let it stop me. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, 100%. Another thing that came to mind when you were talking about going out and doing the flower garden work is those types of things where you go off and have downtime that's inactive, creative time are so important for your active creative time. And they bring in a whole new, well to draw from, I feel like in my experience of not doing only the one thing, but going out and have experiences with people who are from totally different worlds really can help fuel that creative process. Has that been true for you?
Yeah. Yeah. So 110% true that um I think in the thick of our touring lives like 10 years ago, I could tell that I needed some kind of downtime, and I started exploring like backpacking in the wilderness as more of a way to do that, and like, literally unplugging for a week or two at a time. And my description of it was always like, no, this is all filling the same well, right? Like when I'm playing music, I'm pulling from these experiences I'm having when I'm unplugged from it, and then vice versa. When I've gone out backpacking or I'm working on a farm, I'm always thinking about music. So I think everything is very um, interlaced that way. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think you've gone further with it than I have over the years. Like just noticing, like, hey, I need to do some different stuff. I think I've been more like, I want to wake up every morning and write something down on a page and play my G chord and, I think there's good stuff to come from, consistency too. But yeah, I think this summer we took a really fun trip out to Durango, Colorado this past summer. And, we've always loved going to Colorado, to the mountains out there. The Rockies are just a magical place. And it's always like fun to do some hiking when we're out there too. And so this year or last year we decided that we would take on some hiking that required a little bit more from us than before. Like just like having to wake up pretty early to get trails very early to get to the tops of these mountains by the time like noon rolls around, because you don't want to be there at the top of the mountain in the afternoon. Storms are there and they can't find shelter and all that. So just kind of had us preparing, and myself probably more than you, um, preparing to do that kind of hiking and sort of get yourself up early and be ready for it. And then to like kind of be in a state of mind where as you're climbing and you're just enjoying the scenery, you're really present and enjoying it all. And
Mhm.
that's not something that I'd ever really done before. And totally different from getting up and like working on your G runs and, whatever else. It's like this thing of building some muscle and like having your lungs ready to, gather the oxygen that's not in the air up there.
Right.
And it kind of had me doing a lot of walking. And I just noticed that the walking is something that Laura's done a ton of with like backpacking and especially in Shenandoah. But it just was a good thing for me to learn about myself, that like the hiking part, the walking part was such a great addition to, the other stuff that I typically throw in on a daily basis. And I'm realizing right now I would really like to get outside sometime soon, but it's so cold and
It's
like
been so
there's ice
cold.
all over the street right now, and it's a little tougher. But I miss that part.
That's why
There's
the
just
antidote is a nice cozy night at the green room with the Honey
Yes,
Dewdrops at the end of
exactly.
February, where it's nice and warm no matter what is going on outside.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well said. Well said.
Well, so okay, I've got a question for you. This I think it might be interesting. What is a major lesson you've learned as an artist that you think could apply to artists in other industries as well as music?
The first thing that came to mind is don't take yourself so seriously.
Hmm.
um, I want to expand on that a little bit though. I mean, I think spanning
Well, that
2 decades of a thing, I think some of what changes is getting older and hindsight is 2020. And I look back and I'm like, well, I spent a lot of energy trying to do a thing. And this is just applying to me, but I could see it being universal in some ways, but like trying to do a thing that I love, but also trying to please a certain category of people with it, to either climb the rung of the ladder or, to get to the top rung, or, I felt like it was more legitimizing to do something versus a thing that maybe I would have been happier with, but I was like, oh no, this isn't it. So I guess what I mean by like not taking yourself so seriously, I think more like this is a bigger conversation, but why are you making art in the first place? Or like, why are you in your industry in the first place? Like, uh, we're all under this capitalism umbrella, but if there isn't the love of the thing and it doesn't make you feel good in the first place, like what's the point? And I feel like in favor of kind of getting bigger all the time, I was losing some sense of that in kind of the thick of our busier years. And I think if I just hadn't been taking it so seriously, I would have enjoyed more of, some of the shows that were so taxing and stressful for various reasons. It just would have been more fun, and I would have held on to those moments in like a very present state instead of just like worrying about what people were thinking all the time and like, oh, nobody's coming to the show, or we didn't sell enough tickets, or nobody was buying the CDs. I think there are a lot of people who are already on top of that and don't have to worry about it, but that would be like one just piece of advice or thing to shed some light on, which is like it just changes. And um, it's just so much more worth it to be like invested in this thing that's meaningful to you and like enjoying those aspects of it instead of getting caught up in, you know, the other stuff that doesn't really matter.
Yeah, the thing that came to mind as you were talking about that was it's about the journey, not the destination, right? But that's like, if you take yourself too seriously, you just start thinking, I need to get over there.
Right.
And like,
Yeah.
I'm here, I'm not happy where I am, right? I want to be doing that. And like you said, then you miss the forest for the trees, right? It's like you're so hyper focused on getting to some sort of milestone that you forget to enjoy the fact that you get to do this in the first place, and how magical is it to make art and share that with people. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
What do you, Kagey? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about, a lot of life changes for us have happened in the last 5 years, and in just like the last couple months here, moving back to Virginia, and we actually bought a house here too. And,
Congrats.
yeah, thanks. I think the artist's life, and I'm sure you feel some of this too. I mean, you've been in the arts before, and now you're an entrepreneur. That question of like, well, what do I really want to be doing? Like how we answer that question is so important. And I've been thinking about that recently because, like, yeah, owning a house, you're figuring out like, okay, how do we, let's keep this thing going. We got to make these payments. This is the life that we want. And how do we do that? And I mean, being an artist is not an easy way to do that. And there are some days where I'm like, man, is there just some 9 to 5 I can go get and just clock in these hours, do the years, sock away a bunch of money, whatever it is. Can I just do that? Would that be better? Just thinking about that end result more than anything else of like, hey, can I feel secure? And then the thing that just keeps popping up for me is like, I just want to be close to the music. I just want to be playing music.
Right.
I want to be in it. And I think that's the thing that pops out for me with this kind of conversation of, can you listen deeply to what you really want to do? Can you figure that out? Can you be honest with yourself about how you most want to spend your time? And I'm not saying that everybody needs to just drop everything, go write songs or, follow every dream. But I think being honest with yourself about this is the thing, this is really what I want to spend my time doing. I think that's it just seems really important. And I keep coming to that question of like, well, what do you want to do? What do you really want to do? Do you want to go do something else? And I don't even know what that something else would be. I never quite get to that part because it's just like, no, I need to be close to the songs. So yeah, just listening to yourself, like what is the What is the answer
I
to that
mean,
question of like, how do you really want to spend your life? What is most important to you? Well, not that it's very easy to figure all that out, but I think
that's
it's
the
really worth
heart
it.
of why I'm doing this podcast is really digging into um that tension that exists for artists of you you have this passion, you have this thing that is like you said, you want to be close to the music, I want to be close to the stories, to the plays, or if you're a visual artist, same thing. I need to be doing that work, and then having to reconcile it with the fact that now you have a mortgage. Now you want to, you have a family, or you've got people who depend on you, and both. And what is that tension, and why does it exist, and how? I think there's a lot of people out there who are trying to navigate that, and and I think we could all benefit from any lesson that has been learned along the way by any artist
Sure. Yeah.
in any industry, that could potentially help make the connection and bridge the gap to just get a little bit closer to getting both, or getting a couple of the things, and not sacrificing the art so that you go do the 9 to 5, so you just don't have to deal with that uncertainty that bubbles up for so many artists. Um, yeah, and I want to believe that there's a way to find a more sustainable path for creative people. Um, it feels like they're the ones who typically get exploited the most because they love it so much. They're like, I'm willing to do this for free. I don't care. I just want to do it for the love of the thing.
Yeah. And we just don't like there's just not a good system in place for artists either. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, that's probably a whole nother podcast.
it probably is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about the music business, yeah, there were a bunch of years when we were younger than we are now that was like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll go there. I'll travel there for very little money,
yeah,
and because I really want to have the experience, and because I think it's going to help grow the whole thing. And I sort of like look at the scene, like our little niche part of the scene these days, and there's so many people who I knew 10 years ago who were, in it and on it and like doing it to the max. And then life changes and they want different things. And now who I'm seeing coming up is like another generation, which is kind of beautiful in its own way of how it just keeps going. But I'm also like taking notes of like, it's sort of like this young person's, the music business, at least in the way that we have gotten to know it. It's like, kind of takes the young people who are willing to like just work, work, work,
yeah.
work. And,
Who's
and then
willing to sacrifice the most stuff?
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, I think I'm so grateful for those experiences that I had when I was in that kind of mode. And also like, I know that I got worn down with that too. It's pretty tough to like try to keep all that up. It's,
Yeah.
in my, for me, it was like pretty, just impossible to keep it going at that level. But I also noticed like there's some great stuff that comes out of it too. Like, as we've sort of like taken the foot off the gas with like touring and like basing everything around, like traveling and playing music that way, things feel a little more fun. Going and playing gigs, no matter what they are, everything from like, legit big festival stage to background music in a restaurant. Even that restaurant can feel pretty fun in some ways. It's very different, but I just noticed myself appreciating and like being like, wow, no, there's a thing that's happening in this room too that's pretty cool, and I'm glad to have the chance to contribute to that. Yeah, it's just
I agree.
different all the time and tough, but also lovely.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, I'm really I feel very fortunate that you two are now living in Stanton and in the Valley, and that you'll be playing lots of local shows. And I'm really, really excited to hear you play live on the 24th of February. Where can people find more info about the tour and also about potentially lessons if there's anybody listening who's interested in that avenue?
Yeah, our website is probably the best place for all of that. It's thehoneydewdrops.com. And yeah, our tour schedule is on there, and there's a couple of links for information about lessons with Kagey, lessons with me, how to get in touch for those things. We use Instagram and Facebook kind of sparingly these days. I mean, it's a good platform to get information out there, but we try not to be too tethered to it, which that might be another podcast also. But yeah, people can also find us on those platforms as well.
Very cool. All right, I'm going to fire off a few spur of the moment rapid fire questions for you. Okay. Favorite artist, or first artist that comes to mind when I say favorite artist?
You first.
Sally Mann, who is a Lexington, Virginia based photographer.
Cool.
Artist being
Very
a broad question.
Broad. Yeah, absolutely.
Mine would be the guitarist Bill Frisell.
If you could only play one instrument for the rest of your life, you would choose?
Guitar for me.
Piano.
Sold out amphitheater or small intimate show?
Small intimate show. No question.
We needed that for the promo. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know. There's just something about, like, man, the small stuff is the more intimate kind of rooms are so special. Getting to play that way is great, but also like getting to see people that way. Ooh.
It's the best.
And then, okay, one more question. Final one, which is, do you guys have any stories from the road, from tour, that come to mind that are worth sharing? I'm sure you've got many, but is there any that
too many
pop out?
Is there a category you're hoping for? Like,
no,
like,
not particularly.
Okay. Because we have like funny stories, we have sad stories, we have
Let's get
food
funny.
stories, we have venue stories.
Let's make people have to show up for the sad stories for the
Okay.
for the concert. Let's go with a funny story.
Funny story. Okay. Which one feels appropriate?
Funny? Oh. Oh, man. We were talking about this one the other day, but one of the first tours we did back in 2009, we were, just trying to piece together anything we could. This particular trip took us up to the Northeast. I think this was like a little town in Pennsylvania. And we had, done a little research before booking this gig. It was like a house concert, but we had noticed that some other people that we knew either were playing it or had played it, and we were like, okay, it looks like a stop, looks like a place that other people are doing this, and so we'll go and do it. And it was just,
It was hard in like every way.
it was a house, and it had a living room with sort of a high ceiling, but they had like a 4-foot stage set up in it.
Okay.
And the audience, I think, was like the couple whose house it was, and then there were a few older folks who fell asleep during the show.
There were like maybe a total of 10 people. I mean, speaking of taking yourself seriously, there were like professional stage lights and a 4-foot stage and a sound system in this person's living room. And we were playing, we did our show for like 10 people, 3 of which fell asleep.
Yeah, just if you couldn't laugh about it, you would cry. it would just be the end of you. And I remember just like when that happened, it was like, okay, it's going to be like this too from times.
That's exactly what was in my head. Was you are in that situation and you just go like, well, this is happening. This is this is how this show is going to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we, it was also this feeling of like we were, the amazing thing about house concerts is that these folks, like out of the goodness of their hearts, are inviting their community, giving all the money to the artists and putting the artists up and feeding them. But you're in their space for 24 hours or more. And everything was just pretty strange. We had just kind of weird vibes from it, but we couldn't talk about it because we were, sleeping in their living room. And there's like a whole long string of things that but mainly it just felt so weird. So when we got in our car the next day, I think it was just like we decompressed about it for like our 2-hour or 3-hour drive, because we were just trying to be very polite and thankful for what they did. But
Of course.
yeah, it was a very strange experience.
I love it. Oh man. Well, thank you both so much for being willing to take the time to do this. And like I've said a few times, I'm really looking forward to your concert and to getting to know you guys a little bit better. So thank you again for being here and for being on Ghostlight.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you so much for having us. And we're so grateful to get to play at the Green Room and have this chat with you. I feel like we could do this for 3 more hours.
We've already got some planned podcasts,
Perfect.
two or three more conversations ready to go.
That's perfect. Yeah,
All
it's great to
right.
talk with you, Ben, and looking forward to meeting you in person too.
Yeah.
Right. TheHoneyDewdrops.com. Check them out and check them out at Green Room coming up in February.